In this class we want to talk about business research and some of the issues that arise when conducting business research. Many organizations rely on business research to gain a competitive advantage and greater market share. It's only through research that businesses can find out what the competitors are doing, the nature of the competition, the feelings of the customer towards the product, changes in the market, changes in tastes, customer expectations and requirements. So research is a very important activity in business. Business research is the pursuit of fact with the help of study, observation, comparison and experiment. So business research may be conducted on many fronts. It may be the use of questionnaires and interviews and focus groups, or random sampling within the population. It may be calling customers who have previously purchased from the business. There are a variety of techniques that may be used, but the idea is to gain an insight into the market, to gain an insight into the customer's mind, to find out what the competitors are doing, and to find out the major issues confronting the business in that market. The search for knowledge through objective and systematic method of finding solution to a problem. That's held to be the approach of business research. It is trying to be objective. It's trying to be systematic in the way it goes about collecting information. The approach of business research is very similar to the scientific approach adopted at universities and at major research institutes. The idea is to be objective, to set out a hypothesis, a testable statement, collect some data, analyze the data and do it objectively, and then honestly accept or reject the hypothesis. Now that is the approach that's held to be the best approach. That's the approach that is the benchmark by which all research is compared. When dealing with the types of research, the issue is to discover answers to questions through the application of scientific procedures. That's not to say that business research is scientific in the same way as science in a laboratory. It means objective. It means that the researcher is trying to find out what the facts are, not what the researcher feels about the situation, not what the company feels about the situation, or not what is believed to be the case. Instead of those, it is looking for what is actually the case, what is the truth, what is the real relationship in the market. And that's what we mean by scientific in this context. It's objective. So it's looking for the truth, the true relationships, the true feelings of the customer towards the product, the true feelings of the customer towards what's happening in the industry. It's looking for objectivity. And this is what marks off the scientific approach. It would be easy for a business to assume what the customer wants, or to assume what's happening in the market. But the assumptions may not be correct. It is far preferable to do some research and find out what the facts are. So it's an attempt to gain familiarity with the phenomenon, to try and find out what the real situation is, and to portray accurately the characteristics of a particular individual, situation or a group. Find out what the characteristics of the customer is. Find out what the customer wants, what the customer's preferences are, and do it as objectively as possible. Now, the components of research, well, there's a constant need to define and redefine problems. First of all, identify the problem, set out the problem, make sure the problem is real, and make sure that the problem is well stated and clearly understood. So it's a question of defining and constantly redefining so that the problem becomes clearer and clearer. Research enables us to understand the new developments in business, society and science. It's only through research that we get this information, that we see precisely what is happening. So for the business person who is trying to market a product, it's important for the business person to understand the motivation of the customers, to understand the developments in society, to understand the expectations of the customer, because they are not static. Society is moving along, business is moving along, business is changing, science is changing, discoveries every day, new innovations, new processes, new ways of doing things. And it's important that the business is contemporary. The business is up to date with all of these developments. Research is the systematic search for the relevant information on a specific topic. It's the careful investigation of a topic through the search for new facts. So research is attempting to honestly find out what is happening in society, what's happening in the marketplace, and report back so that the business person is more aware of what's required, it's more aware of what the trends in the market are, and is able to produce a product or a service to meet the requirements of that changing situation. So it's a movement from the known to the unknown. Clearly the business person knows what is happening right now. The business person knows what happened last week. But we don't know what's happening next week. Now research can shed light into expectations, customers' requirements, customers' concerns. So it's moving from the known into the unknown. Some research in business and amongst academics and amongst research institutions, some research is for research's sake. It adds to our stock of knowledge. Research in particle physics may or may not have practical implications. We don't know. But we do believe it's important research, even though it costs such a lot of money. The business person has a stock of information, if you like, about the customer and about the market and about the history of the market, the history of the product and how the market's developed. But what the business person wants is to add to that stock of knowledge, add more information about the market. So there's a richer picture of the market and the processes within the market. So there's a never-ending requirement for more knowledge, for more information on the part of the business person. And that's the same in academic circles. People do research all the time into obscure areas in mathematics. And the reason is it's adding to our stock of knowledge. Mankind is richer because of the research, because there's a better insight into some situation. It may have practical implications in the future, it may not, but it's important that we add to our stock of knowledge. Now, the research problem. Well, the first problem that we may encounter is the lack of a good methodology. Now, methodology is method. It's the study of method. And the research may have a poor method. All sorts of issues could arise here. If it's a sample that's been selected from the population, how is the sample selected? What's the size of the sample? And these issues are considered in great detail in other videos in these classes. So I'm going to just brush over the tops of them in this session. But essentially, how the sample is selected and the size of the sample are critical issues if a sample is being used. It may be that every member of the population, every customer is going to be interviewed. We call that a census. If everybody in the population is contacted, that's a census. In that case, we don't have a problem about the size of the sample because everyone is contacted. But we may still have issues about what questions were asked and the context in which the interviews, let's say, took place. Respondents, people who respond to questionnaires or to requests for information, respondents, especially businesses, may fear that researchers may misuse the information. Businesses like to keep their secrets, commercial secrets. It's how they make the product and the issues they have confronted and the problems they have solved. That is their intellectual property. So they don't want to share this. So businesses are very reluctant to openly participate in surveys. They are often reluctant to supply the needed information to researchers. They decline. They want to keep the information secret. It's their information. They have to discover that information themselves, so why give it away? And they must have confidence in the researcher. The respondents must trust the person conducting the research. And if there is a pledge that the information will not be released to the general public or put into the public domain, the respondents must have confidence that that is true. So a big research problem is getting respondents to participate. Research studies may overlap, and this results in duplication and frustration on the part of the respondents. If questions are being posed, if the same question is being posed just in different ways, the respondent will get fed up answering, will become annoyed at participating, because it seems like a waste of time. It seems like the activity was not well thought out. So the respondents will be reluctant to participate. Another problem is that research for some researchers may be a cut and paste job without any real insight into the collected material. Some researchers may just simply pick up the information as quickly and as conveniently as possible, cut it and paste it, in other words, write it up as it is, and get in and get out as quickly as possible. There's no real insight into the processes or the underlying patterns. It's an exercise of getting the research done. And that is not just misleading, but it's dangerous. It may lead to decisions based on the research which are erroneous or ill-founded. There may be insufficient contact and understanding between research and business. There may be insufficient contact between them. Research and business needs to be joined up. The two are connected through the requirements of understanding the market, understanding the customer, understanding the reception that a new innovation will receive in the market. or whatever the issue is. So it's important that there is a clear understanding of the connection between the two. There is no universal code of conduct for research, but ethical statements and guidelines may be followed. But often there are rivalries between researchers. But generally speaking, the researchers should have a code of conduct. They should set out what they're going to do with the collected material, where the collected material will be stored. If anonymity is an issue, it should be given and respected. So there should be some sort of commitment on the part of the researcher to honour ethical considerations, particularly pledges that were given to the respondents to get their cooperation. Support services such as libraries may be slow and cause delays in the overall research effort. That's a problem. Secondary sources of information normally come through libraries. There could be public libraries, or there could be specialist libraries, perhaps at commercial institutes such as the Chamber of Commerce. But libraries may be slow because the tables, the secondary data, the data itself, this may be stored at a different place, at a different centre. It may have to go there, be sorted out and taken over, and so libraries may be slow in responding, and that may hold up the work. Now, the objectives of business research, well, to determine the relationship between events, to see what caused what. That's one objective of business. If the company cuts the price of the product, will more of the product be sold? So what is the precise relationship between the price of the product and the amount of sales? Try to determine the relationship. To test hypotheses of a causal relationship between variables. Did the reduction in the price lead to more sales? Was that the reason why there was more sales? Or did something else happen? Did incomes in the area rise? Or was there a government health announcement to say that this product is highly desirable and will lead to longevity, and therefore lots of people wanted to buy it? I mean, what is the causal relation? What causes what in the market? Try to determine causal relationships, something causing something else. And if these connections are worked out, then these are very strong indicators for the business on how to market their product, how to design their product, and how to position their product in the market. It's important for the business also to understand general trends, fashion changes and requirements of customers, and these are changing at almost an accelerating rate because of the impact of technology and because of communications revolutions. The advent of social media, the advent of communications between customers which may link to the product, and it may lead to a different sort of word of mouth, this time through social media, where the product is being recommended online between customers directly. And it's important that the business can tap into this and to monitor what's happening in that area. The business wants to know what are the optimal conditions in some aspect of the business. They want to know what's meant by optimality. They want to know if they change their production techniques, will it be more efficient? Will it lead to better supply in the market. If it changes its logistical plan for warehousing and delivery and dispatch and so on, if it does, will that be better or worse? It needs to look at the overall optimality of the business, and that may require it to look at the optimality of functional areas such as production, warehousing, and the accounts section and the marketing section, and looking at the various sections within the business and trying to get some sort of optimality within those. And to do that, it needs research, internal research, looking at the efficiency of the business. So in this session we've talked about research. We've looked at it in an overall fashion, and we've looked at some of the issues surrounding research. As I said to you earlier, this class overlaps significantly with other classes on this topic, and this one just gives a slightly different perspective to the others, but it all fits together. And it's important for you to look at other classes which also look at the objectives of business research and look at the issues in business research that are presented within the module. So please consult the other classes and make sure that you're up to speed with them and you've made notes from them, and use the notes you've made from the other classes, add these notes and get one complete set of notes, which would be an ideal situation as a student. That's what students do. They collate notes, they collate information, and they have a broader picture of the issues. But that's all I'm going to do for this session, so I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to say thank you for watching.